We will start our meeting for land use and planning, February 24th, 2025. So real quickly, will we get a chance to approve, do you have Public Works out again? Yep. Just letting you know where we're at.
Thank you. I guess, yeah. Noted.
Did everyone get a chance to review the minutes from 2:10?
I did.
Motion?
I move to approve minutes from February 11th. I will second that.
And that passes. Excellent. So, real quickly, so I know we have some folks here specifically for the MOU conversation. So if we don't mind, I would like to skip to number 4 on here, just so we can get that going. I did reach out to a few folks from the Parks Board, as well as just put it out to the community, because I think it's important that we get as much input on this as possible. But currently, this has been brought to our attention because there was some commercial use at Pride Park over the summer. They got permitted, did everything that they were supposed to do, but there's concerns of use of the park, if it's going to conflict with best overall use in terms of seating, shaded areas, those types of pieces. And if we wanted to put any limitations or restrictions, or say no use of that park for private use. So that's where this conversation is kind of starting. So we're trying to bring that up with the community first, just to get some feedback. So again, we have some folks here that I believe wanted to speak on it. If you would like to, Danielle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can start. So Kat, Janice, and I are all here for the Red Lodge Art Walk. And we are, we've been doing the Art Walk for probably 6 years, but 4 years more formally, maybe. Anyway, our goal is to bring art culture into downtown Red Lodge, for 6 months, May through October, and on the second Saturday of each month. So, and we do that by, finding members, getting people to join, getting businesses to join, put guest artists in some of the businesses, to get people downtown to just appreciate art, walk around, enjoy themselves. And one of our goals this year is to increase our marketing, increase our exposure, try to kind of build the event up a little bit. And we thought that having a presence in Pride Park during the art walk would be really beneficial. And what we'd like to do in the park is, maybe have a tent with an art walk banner, just as a central point where people can pick up a map or ask questions, that kind of thing, in combination with having some kind of planned activity in Pride Park as well. And that could be anything from Janice to Pride to speak a little more about that, because she's got ideas.
So the vision would be just to have like one sort of 10 by 10 sort of popped up tent in the middle of the park with like just table and banner and like just a quick make and take activity. Just so that as people are driving down Red Lodge, that if they see that there's a visual presence of Art Walk, and then that way we can kind of direct them, oh, well, there's these businesses down here, and this artist is at this place, and be able to have just sort of that visual presence as you're walking down. Because we've added signs in front of the businesses, like, before, but to have, like, a booth, a spot that can be there every one of those Saturdays, and not like that we wouldn't really be having, like, selling stuff out of that, but just have it, like, just a make-and-take art experience, something easy, something quick, something fun, something to engage anybody who's walking by. So I would probably be the person that's out there doing that.
Cool. Make and take?
Yeah, so just like a quick, like if you're just doing like little cards or little printmaking activity or just some sort of like actual like art, interactive art experience, something quick.
No cash changing hands though?
Not unless they wanted to donate to the art walk. Like there might have like a little bucket there where it was like, oh, donate to us.
Yeah.
But they were not seeing that as a spot where like an artist would set up. That is more like a central location for people to get information about the and actually do a little activity.
And also not just that, but educate folks that would have no idea otherwise.
Right. Have you guys had
absolutely.
a kind of a starting point previously? Like, wasn't it usually
we use the old Wells Fargo, that's now Bank of Red Lodge, but the same reason we'd like to move it, we just thought
More,
it's
yeah.
all concrete, and so there's more seating, there's trees.
Mhm.
Pride Park is just a little bit
Cuter.
more
Yeah.
welcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
it,
what I was
windy
thinking, like, I
days.
wasn't sure where your meeting point had been previously.
Well, and what they also used to like, welcome artists to set up tents to sell out there. But because it's like
Mhm.
such a small amount of time, because it's only between 2 to 6,
Right.
so it's not a long window of time. It was a ton of work for an artist to set up a whole tent, to put all the materials up, to only have like a little bit of interaction. And then that little area over there just gets super windy too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
stuff was
Oh,
blowing
yeah.
around like crazy,
Right.
and it was just really becoming a pain in the butt for the artists right there. And that's why the beauty of Pride Park is that it is kind of tucked in, but it's still visible enough that you would see it.
Right,
Yeah.
yep.
And so it's kind of like the perfect little spot for us to just to set up like the one little tent and a table and a sign.
Okay.
That's what we want to do.
And like a little
Yeah.
map of all the
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
Right, just
Yeah, yep, and,
Mhm.
a
The
walking greeting tour. point type
Right.
place.
Yeah,
And
mhm.
just to be clear, we're a nonprofit, we fly under the Community Foundation
Right.
nonprofit status. So it's not a commercial thing, we're not trying to make money or anything like that.
right. No, for sure. And again, I think more of the concern isn't so much, are you making profit? At least in my eyes, and again, there's different opinions across the board, that's why we're trying to get as many opinions as possible.
Yeah.
In my eyes, it doesn't matter if you're making money, if it's a nonprofit, it's more of, are we taking up space that is better utilized for older citizens or older guests that are walking through town that might need a place to sit?
Mhm.
And again, some opinions are a little bit more on this end, some are a little bit less. And
Yeah.
that's why it's, I think, important to just hear feedback from everybody. But, I mean, to me, that makes sense. Like, that's one thing that could be really a cool utilization of Pride Park throughout the summer. I think bringing, it's like a focal point, bringing attractions and emphasizing on attractions of town, it adds to the character of town.
Right.
And again, it's just a very delicate balance because it is such a small space.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the problem is you're taking up Pride Park for when they have the, car show, and you have a bunch of older people that could sit in the shade, and it would kind of rob them of that. Same with the 4th of July, when you have the parade and all many people out there, 'cause it's a Saturday. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
And so
And
the art
second-
walk doesn't, yeah, it doesn't conflict with any other
Yeah.
event.
Oh,
And-
it's
and then-
this
and I-
year. Well, it'll definitely
Well, this year.
it won't conflict with, well, it wouldn't do with the,
Mhm.
car show, 'cause that's always,
Third weekend.
yeah, well,
And Fourth of July would realistically be first
Good.
weekend, generally speaking.
Yeah, so
I
we're
mean-
the 12th of July, so we are June
And-
14th, July 12th. And ideally, we would want that seating to still be open and available. So like if we can
Yeah.
kind of station the tent where it's not,
like further back.
Yeah.
like it's in
Where
the
it's not a
park.
right
or
away,
we're
out
not
of the
blocking
community
anything
space.
off.
Yep.
And in fact, I'd love to have people sit there and like if they were making that little craft or like the kids at the table and the parents are sitting in the shade, the idea would be to utilize those seating for the activity, not to take it away from people, not to block it off.
Right. So yes, I think that's where the big again, the concern is will that seating now be utilized for you guys versus other folks walking?
Will you
Mhm.
So
supply
just a
your own
delicate
seating?
balance because it is a small space. And I think, again, this is very beginning part of the conversation, so I want to
Right.
get folks here right out the gate is, because that's the other piece that we could do too. It's like, all right, well, we have this available during the majority of the time, but big event weekends that, and I know the city has shown no interest in making the decision of what's a big event, what's a small event, even though I think that's a pretty,
Well, I'm looking at
Clear.
I'm looking at,
Yeah.
It's stipulated in the ordinance.
yeah, so
So-
we have the ordinance 9.
Mr. Mayor.
Madam Chair, so my, and I know we're talking about a specific event here, but my reminder is just what we would like to see from a staff position is just the guidelines that work for this event. The next event we haven't thought of yet, and 3 months from now, another.
Right.
So what are the guidelines we can
Exactly,
use to
yeah.
apply?
And that's kind
And
of
it
what
can't
I'm.
say, we're gonna allow the art walk, but not everything else. It's like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Commercial, not commercial, taking up space, not taking up space. We're trying to figure out what those parameters are.
How much space?
And I think that's, again, I don't think that's what they were trying to imply at all, or us either. It's that's why it's good to get this feedback, because there was a lot of conversation of just not letting it be available. But shows that there's good use for it that could still cooperate with what we're doing.
Other than the stuff that was kind of the trigger for,
Right,
it needs to be shut
and it's
down.
because they didn't have criteria.
Let's not overreact.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think that's great. Again, I really appreciate that input. I'm gonna go to Roger now from Parks Board. Did you get any input from everybody?
Well, no, I was gonna ask you if you.
I got nothing.
I sent out an email to each individual member of the Parks Board, asking them not to communicate among themselves, but to send, if they had any comments regarding this issue, directly to Chelsea. And, so you didn't receive any from me either, but,
Yep.
but, I guess we didn't get any comments from the Park Board member. I'm here basically because I wanted to find out what the issue was. And, it is clearly defined in the ordinance, you know, what is a large event, what's a small event. Mentions that there's fees available, but as I was looking through that, now I've been on the board for just a little over a year, I realized that I'm not even sure how the process of reserving a public space or a park works.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I tried to find out how you do that by going through the city's website. It's not very clear. It mentions that the Parks Board manages the parks and contact the Parks Board. Well, there's really nobody to contact. I mean, who do they
Yeah.
contact? Individual members? Do they contact the city clerk? Do they go directly to, it implies in the ordinance that approval is made by the city council. So I don't know if.
So I'm going in it right now, like, okay, I'm going to rent Pride Park, what do? Let me go to the city of Red Lodge, I go in here,
I put in how to reserve a park, what I put in.
did you?
Yeah.
Well, so then I was going through.
It's not that
Too
smart.
specific, yeah. Too specific, so then I was like, all right, where could we go? And then if you go into like community or even resources, I went into community, and down the last little heading down there is use of city-owned land. So I click on that, and it actually gives you, there's the resolution, and then it gives you two separate, events, like
Application.
applications.
Right.
Yep, large or small. And so that's where I looked at the large, and I was like, ooh, that's one where it's like alcohol, and you have bathrooms.
Number of people, yeah.
Right. So, but then in this case, it's kind of a free-flowing, like, you don't really, no one is actually
Congregate.
yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah.
event isn't being held there.
Correct.
Well, plus it's not specifically reserving it for a private event, like it
No.
allows for public right-of-way, public
And
flow.
I think the biggest concern, my guess would be, which you said earlier, the commercial use and the retail use of the park. I know I was down there, this summer, and one of the retailers pretty much took the park over.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I, at that time, I thought, I wonder if that's really allowable, you know, and, because it is such a small area, and it's a little bit of an oasis downtown, people walking up and downtown. People want to stop, get in the shade, maybe have something to drink, or have an ice cream cone, or something like that. It seems like that's really maybe not the best use of that type of facility. That's just my own opinion. That's not a Parks Board opinion or
Well,
anything else.
that's helpful too, so.
And that was
The
one of
cat-
those that came in and did a land use and rented it for $100 a day.
Yeah, okay.
And then after, I think, the first one, then staff started to say, you're not allowed to interfere with seating, meaning you can't block it or use it. And we started to put some restrictions in
Yeah.
there.
It pretty much encumbered the whole. the whole
Yeah.
park.
I believe that was kind of the catalyst to why we were
Yep, and
now
that's exactly
addressing
it.
this.
Yeah, so,
And they did it because it was a big event going on.
Oh,
so,
sure, I mean.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, they were-
commercially, yeah.
they were making a
good idea.
business move, business
Yeah.
strategy,
Yep.
and again, one of the other concerns is that is prime real estate in Red Lodge, that they're renting for $100 a day when other folks and businesses and retailers are trying to make ends meet when leasing buildings every
Mhm.
day, and it is that an abuse of that space. And so, again, I personally, and again, I really appreciate the feedback, and I'd love to hear more from Parks. I know that we got mixed up with the meeting times just because you guys don't meet for a bit, but,
Yeah.
I would love to hear their feedback and maybe put that on their next agenda.
Yep.
But specifically, I personally, and this is just coming from me, think that within the right criteria, again, creating size restrictions, use restrictions in terms of benches, I don't think it matters whether you're commercial or non-commercial. If you're a nonprofit, however you want to use it, you can have that space, the same that you could have any other park space. But one recommendation that I did hear, just talking to community members, is limiting the amount of times you can utilize that space. So whether that's once a month or whether that's
Every
Yeah.
versus every weekend.
Yeah.
It's like the music festival.
Yeah.
They don't get a permit, they just go to the park and set up their
Right.
instruments and play,
Yeah,
you know? And that's what the park is there for.
right, and I agree, I wanna see it used, and I think that's a really fun use, having bands there, having nonprofit booths, having art there, like, there's,
A
lot of-
Look at while you're eating your ice cream.
Yeah, I think that
And engage with.
it's a fun focal point of Red Lodge that I think having more things happening there, that just adds to the fun happenings of Red Lodge. So again, within the right criteria, I think that there should be usable.
So the criteria, are we going to talk about non-commercial use?
I think that we should keep commercial use, because I don't really see a difference either way. So, like, to me, again, I think that it's great having art and all that, but at the same time, there's some businesses that create just as cool of things, like an artist selling their art would be commercial. And I don't necessarily want to shut it down to somebody who wants to sell artwork. Or, again, sell balloon animals, we could have a clown there, like, that would technically be commercial
Commercial.
use.
Yeah, so, and then
So-
it steps on,
Well, let me ask you a question. There is a band, I call them the old geezer band. It's kind of like-
Oh, the Oompa guys.
We know who you're talking
Yeah,
about.
you know what I'm talking about. They come down,
Oompa,
I think
you know.
they're kind of fun, but, you know,
Right.
they're not selling anything, they add a nice atmosphere to downtown. And I don't necessarily have a problem with retail or commercial use of the park either, except that I think we gotta keep in mind it's a very small park. It's
Exactly.
a very small space, and it wouldn't take a lot to completely dominate
And,
the whole use of that park. And I think you could be, we might wanna be mindful of, once we start allowing that happen, you're gonna get more requests to have it happen.
exactly.
And so if we're gonna allow that kind of request, there ought to be maybe some limits set in terms of the amount of space they
Yep.
can use and how often that park can be used in that way. It's not like Lions Park where you have farmers market
Mhm.
and, you know, you have a large area down, but that's basically commercial use down there too.
Yeah.
So I don't think, again, this is just my personal opinion, that commercial or retail use of that facility should be maybe totally banned. But I think there ought to be some limits to the
Again.
number of times and how much they can use it. And with the idea of keeping in mind that it's not like Lions Park, it's not big, it's not expansive, and it's right in the heart of downtown where a lot of people like
Yeah.
congregate. So, you know, I mean, how about a guitar player busking down there?
Yeah,
You know, is that an issue? Does he need to get?
He's not
he or
charging,
she?
he's not
Well,
charging.
if
he might be if you open up that guitar case right there, like,
Well, what about like Girl
That's a
Scout
volunteer.
cookies? That's volunteer.
It's still use of the park, I mean, would he need to get a permit to do that?
No.
so yeah, that's kind of the stuff. Any other suggestions of that? Yeah, if he uses like,
Just one note, there is a section that I went to that's reserve a park,
mhm,
and under that just says most reservations are made over the phone.
mhm,
And also our event wouldn't have required, currently, if I'm reading it correctly, we would not have been required to make a reservation because it was free open to the public and we aren't selling items. So if there's, two separate places where you can reserve with two different application processes, that was just a little bit,
that's a good
I
point.
wasn't even looking at it right now.
right, and see, and
Yeah, I
that's
was
where,
looking at the other page, so,
yeah, well, and that's the thing, like,
Make sure all the
there's-
protocols are lined up.
there's big, there's little, and then like, the stipulations that you fall under, it doesn't even match as a complete.
I just don't even know
event.
where you could possibly set up a tent there and not block some walkway
In the back,
or seating.
in the, I'm
Yeah, the
thinking
alley.
close to the alley, closer to Babcock, like in
Isn't
the
there
back
a,
part,
isn't there a picnic table there?
There is,
is it?
I mean, pick tables are movable.
That's what I was like, is it bolted down?
I don't think so.
If it's still there, yeah.
Yeah.
See, so that's kind of what I'm saying, is there's a very small walkway in there, we have to allow for a wheelchair or that type of thing, putting things in there.
I believe the sidewalk on the,
But if you wanna get in, you know, under in the shade,
You come
then
out
there
to the
needs
front.
to
you come out to the
continually
front.
be.
Well, right.
So I mean, it's clear, it might be worth, again, I just wanted to bring this up because we had folks here. I think this is going to be a continued conversation. I'm not
Agreed.
resolving this today, and I know Brian would prefer we did.
Oh, no, no,
But-
no, I don't think there's any expectation.
Is there a-
Okay.
is there a rush?
Expectation and hope is that you get it right, not that you'll get it tomorrow.
Perfect. So I think that,
like,
allowing
for one 10 by 12 or 8 by 10 tent, and
And in
Yeah.
a specific
in a
location.
specific, yeah, in a specific part, and that's the part that we utilize for,
I think I need
Right.
to go down there and take a good look.
and that's exactly what I was
With a
about
tape
to
measure?
recommend, is that we go down, take a look,
I can-
look at the
my
space.
feet.
Because again, I personally, and this is personal and also based off what I've heard from other public, is we'd like to continue to see use there,
Mhm.
but again, just creating parameters for what that use looks like.
Correct.
And just add one more thing, you know, the park is really designed primarily for passive use.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Just by
exactly.
nature, and so it does complicate it when you have a little bit more of an active use in there. I mean, you know, is somebody gonna have kids' games, there are different
Right.
things going on, so, you know,
That's a really good point.
It's gonna take a while maybe to figure all this out.
Okay.
And I think, I know the Parks Board would be happy to,
Yeah, would you mind putting that on their agenda for the next go?
you know.
Like, see what,
Okay, yeah, it'd be
See what
great to
you
hear
guys
there.
come up with.
Council would love it if you would come up with some verbiage and lovely language.
100%.
Well, and
We
then
could
also,
use that.
there's been the discussion on the fact that there's going to be some reconstruction happening there and some changes, so that might very much, this could become a part of that conversation.
It could be, it might affect what they want to do.
right,
Right.
it might change
Mr.
the
Mayor.
direction, yeah.
Another thing, and I don't know if it would be part of Pride Park or if this is a separate or wider issue, about every, I don't know, I'd say every 4 years, but it's not, but every period of time, there was a time 6 or 7 years ago that people were utilizing it and setting up billboards and political purpose X or political purpose Y, and one of the issues is, if we don't have, you know, there's free speech, which everybody's entitled to, and a lot of them inhibit, but it is acceptable to say, if you're gonna go protest this or do that, you have to get a permit to do that. I don't know if that's part of Pride Park conversation, or if that's a separate discussion. You know, if you want a protest permit, you need a permit, or,
Well, if
I don't know.
it's utilizing
You
the,
have to be really careful, because there are some really strict rules about,
I know.
There's
that's-
lots of
And without, in the
municipalities that
absence
have
of them, they
permits
really
for
can't do anything.
protesting, which I.
correct.
not
I
not
don't
our
care about,
rules,
but
I'm
yeah,
just
I don't
saying
really wanna
federal
do that.
rules.
That's a,
think
that's a topic that's fraught with a lot of details, and the city attorney had to be really.
Yeah.
And
Would have to look at
but
I don't
you
think
can
we
say
can
that
stop
Pride
them.
Park isn't that point. You can protest, you just can't stand in the middle of the intersection with sit-down spots, and so.
Right.
That, and I said it could be part of this
You
conversation.
can.
No, I think that,
You can designate areas for public gatherings like
Yeah.
that, yeah, I know.
and I think more so, the better way to look at this is maybe not so much permitting a space for use, but permitting spaces for public use,
Yeah.
if that makes more sense, to where these right-of-ways must stay clear.
Mhm.
Whatever happens in between
Always.
these right,
Yeah,
exactly, always.
And part of Roger's language was, you know, if the language is
Council.
just, it can't inhibit the pass-through ability of this
Yep.
park, and it's that there. And that would cover
A
your
lot.
protest can't inhibit, your.
It'd be
your this,
everything,
that,
and
the other
I
can't
think that,
inhibit.
because that's, I think, truly where the issue stems from. Again, there have been some concerns of people making profit from that space. I don't have concerns with that. Most people I've talked to don't have concerns with that. They don't want to see it abused.
I
And-
think my concern with the profit is, again, the amount of space and how often.
There isn't
Right.
enough space in there
And
to
that's,
make a profit. I mean, unless you're selling
Well-
something that's, you know, $1,000 and there's one of them. I just don't see that.
I mean,
An artist, though.
and again, artists,
No.
performing arts, like that, those are things, and I know I made the example last time of the band with the spoons playing out of the back of his car. Again, the guy who would sell paintings out of the back of his car and play spoons, it was a fun thing. But, I mean, you think about performing artists in Vegas, something like that, where you have someone that you wanna take photos with, they're making money off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and I would personally consider that, like, commercial use, It's not like they're going and donating that, and if they were, great, but,
It's the size of the commercial use.
and again, even if
Again,
you're donating
small
money,
part.
that's still
No.
money and transactional use happening.
Exactly.
So like, again, and
And
no offense to the
technically-
nonprofits here in the room, but realistically, we're generating funds for some use.
Maybe you
And,
get into resort tax.
well, oh man.
Okay,
And
now
again, that's a conversation for tomorrow at 9 a.m.
you see where that goes, though? I mean, if
No,
there's something
exactly.
commercial going
But
on in there.
in terms of the use of the space, I think that's where where most of our focus is we want to make sure it's available to the public. We want to make sure that the use whatever use it is not inhibiting anyone from being able to use that park space.
You can't inhibit the flow of the park nor the seating.
Yep.
Can
So
I-
just, yep,
Okay, just throw one more little twist to this. It does mention in the ordinance private use.
Yeah.
And private use can be a different type of use, what we're talking about here. It could be, I want to have my son's 10th birthday party at the
Yep.
park, and only people who I invite to the birthday party are allowed to come in.
Yep.
So that's, for instance, you might rent the gazebo in
Yep.
Lions Park for a party. So, that's a whole other twist to it. It's private use, not like a retailer using it that
yeah, that wants people to come
wants
in.
people to come in, but it's private use and exclusive use to the renter.
Yeah, I
And
don't-
that's currently allowed,
And that's
Is
maybe another thing.
In
we
Hyde
may
Park?
wanna-
all of them.
That may be something we may want to discuss, if that's a proper use of that site.
Yeah.
Now, there was an event last year that had that park all the way down to, Babcock and Miles. They had some kind of a dinner down there.
Prerogative one, where they
Was
did
it
crawfish
Prerogative?
boil?
Pardon
Oh,
me?
the
I don't remember
crawfish
that.
Crawfish boil one? No, that was the street.
No,
fair.
wasn't that one,
And I think that did they have part of the street blocked off?
I think they just took street, but generally when you take street, sidewalks come with it.
Yeah.
But I agree, I think that that's one park that should not allow private use.
I agree.
Agreed.
Pri-
I agree,
private
Well, especially for
exclusive.
the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm getting married right here.
Yeah.
No one else is.
what an
Yeah.
awesome spot to get married.
Right, I know. I'm just saying.
But no, that's a very good, and again,
Maybe they
like,
met there,
we've been
okay.
seeing a lot of that at Lions Park. I mean,
Right.
recently, we just went through all of the application process because there were concerns with how parks were getting reserved, because we had multiple events, fun run, then followed by a wedding, like literally in the same day.
Mhm.
And
One out, one in.
yeah, pretty much. And so that was where that kind of stemmed, but now it's still stemming off. So clearly, there's cleanup that needs to happen. That being said, we do have a fairly good-sized agenda.
Mhm.
I think we do still have some homework to do, and we'll put this back on the agenda for the following week. But again, the input is very well received, and thank
Yeah.
you. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for
Um,
listening.
No, absolutely, and again, I just appreciate you guys being here, and, again, we'll hear more from Parks
Yeah,
Board,
we'll-
because I think
we'll
that's
put it on
between
the
our
agenda.
next sessions.
It's on the 5th.
Perfect,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
So that'll be great to get some feedback from them, and then, yeah, I think that we just wanna just be really pragmatic, take a walk through the park, sit in the park, set up a tent. I might just
At a
set up a pop-up,
barbecue and
I
a-
might set up a pop-up tent, just see how it fits.
Put a bouncy house.
Yeah, I'll put a bouncy house in.
Couple ideas of how it could
I'm just
fit.
kidding.
Yeah,
Right?
you're like, leave it to the artist to sketch it out.
Right,
Yeah,
you got it.
And like, there's a couple different ways it could fit, just depending on how big that size really is. So I know there's those planters and then the walls, so I mean, if it fits just in there, right?
Yeah,
But if it doesn't, it could always kind of nuzzle in around the outside of it, you
Yeah.
know, those
Mhm.
planters, and then that still would have all the flow through here, or it could fit just at a diagonal, and you
Yeah.
would still have all the flow, it wouldn't be blocking anything.
and
So it could fit in there in quite a few different ways.
that's
But you
awesome.
would just have to have something pointing people towards the back.
Do applications, require a diagram of the layout for the event?
Sometimes.
Something,
Yeah.
When they're getting approved, sometimes there will be a reach out and a reach back. And again, like I said, it's funny that you look at me, I don't have an opinion on this, and I do a really good job, I think, I hope, of my job is to, like, I'm looking for something that can be consistently applied now,
Yep.
a month from now, 3
Agreed.
months from now. That's the only thing I care about. What it comes up, that's council's purview, and I'm perfectly happy with that.
No, I am right there with you. I'm all about having clear criteria.
Yeah.
Create the same rules that everyone gets to play by.
When you guys figure out that protocol,
Oh, yeah.
could you let us know?
You betcha.
Could
You betcha.
Could we be on the informed list?
Absolutely.
So that we are following because I mean, even if it is, you know, we have to like pay for it
Right.
to reserve it for that, we're happy to do that, because it's an important part of us to have, more presence actually out on the street, and that's just the perfect spot for it.
Oh, great.
So we would
Yeah.
happily pay for the permit if we need to, but we just need to know what protocol we need to
Totally.
What you
How to
need.
follow and
Mhm.
get that reserved, all of that.
Yep,
Nope.
and so, our first one is in May.
Okay, so
Okay.
what I would
So-
recommend is, tomorrow morning, reach out to Brian Hanna and just say, hey, I know that there's these discussions happening.
And at this point,
Well,
you could put in an
actually-
application
You
for
already
May.
did?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's how we ended up here.
They told us
Because
to-
he said show up to the meeting, so.
Perfect,
Thanks,
perfect.
Brian.
So thanks to Brian, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, so he obviously has you on the radar, and my bet is he probably has like a block in there for you already, because he's usually really good about that kind of thing.
Okay.
Should we follow up?
So.
I would follow up.
I would
with
follow
it.
up, absolutely.
Follow up.
Yeah, and then, but regardless, once we have more solidified information, obviously, that will come to you guys, but
It
realistically,
takes a
it's,
while.
Oh, I'm
it takes
sure.
a lot.
So for the time being, do you guys recommend, you know, follow up with Brian, but then should we also just go ahead and submit permits?
I would.
Yeah,
would.
if
Okay.
he's requesting that, I would
I would.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That way, in the limbo of us deciding this.
Yeah, because realistically, if you have a minute
Yeah.
approved, then there's nothing we can do to tell you, no, you can't.
And if you don't, somebody else gets one
Somebody
in
else could.
before you. and
Yeah, we
they-
don't want you
that's-
guys to miss
yeah.
out on an opportunity to wait on us, that's not fair, so,
Okay.
yeah, that would be our recommendation, is talk with Brian, get those permits in, or at least make sure that that's locked off for you guys, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is Brian?
Brian Hanna, he's the Community Development Director,
He's-
what is he now?
He's our building
Yeah.
inspector / Dave's right-hand man to make sure stuff gets
He's
done.
got a lot of titles
He's
right
the
now.
city guy?
Pardon?
Yeah.
Yeah,
City guy.
he's the city
So
guy.
my question is, if somebody wants to reserve the park, do they go to Brian or come to you?
It's that online form, and they turn it in here.
Okay.
So the trick is, and I'm looking at it, because what happens is, there's navigating to it, and then I just like to do like land use, and it's trying to figure out which words to guess. And at one point in time, we had it so like, how do we stick text on that page that says rent a park? So if somebody goes to the search and looks up rent a park.
Tag,
Try to figure out, put white text on a white background or something, so that it's,
I mean,
and every time we
And
get
you
it fixed, they come along and change their
You
white
can
text.
always come in and they can print you off one too.
This could be because I'm a little dense, but, it seems like it's not really user-friendly. It goes, there's an online application, but then when you get on the website, it says most applications are made by phone, but then it doesn't say.
I don't have to look at my phone, because you can download it.
Mhm.
Well, right here,
Just the reserve a park.
under Reserve a Park, at the very bottom, it says most reservations are made over the phone. But it doesn't say who you call,
Oh, that's under parks?
who you talk to.
Oh, geez.
The mayor's making a note.
he'll fix that
So
by
I
tomorrow.
think-
And that's on parks, not on the land use page. That's why I'm not seeing that.
Well,
And that's where most normal
Okay,
humans
so
would
yeah,
go.
I just Googled Reserve
But
a Park.
if you were just
Yep.
maybe a dense person like me, and you're trying to do this.
Oh, and I don't
you-
think it's,
You would, go, do I talk to the Parks Board, do I talk to land use, do I talk to the building inspector, do I make a phone call to somewhere that doesn't have a phone number
right.
listed,
It didn't, it says most reservations are made over the phone.
Nothing.
And then no number?
Like who,
It
city
also says you
clerk
don't have
or
to make a
Brian or who,
reservation.
I'm like, who
so
are we
I-
calling?
my
Like, why
are
suggestion
we
is this
here?
really
Does it
needs, this
say?
needs to be made.
That needs to be very clear. And again, I know that currently our website is under a lot of,
Optimum.
yeah, and it's under a lot of improvements and edits because a lot of this stuff hasn't been touched in a long time,
Sure.
or it's been in limbo,
It's
and
hard to keep up with what.
it's hard. And
It
then
is.
not only that, like,
Change.
our website is not the most user-friendly in regards to searching, like,
No,
that's,
it's
it's
not.
I guess
the
there's a
worst,
big block
actually.
right next to it that says contact information.
Yeah.
But again, I'm kind of looking.
Still, I usually,
Is that the number I
This
call?
went to parks is where you went?
And there was one place that said, went to parks, and it said, the Parks Board is in charge of managing the park. So personally, I've got a little bit of an issue with that, but that's another
get to work.
conversation.
Yeah, I know the history and why that says that, but we wanna fix that.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I've got to run, I got a
Or
bad
the
phone.
part that.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and again, we are gonna move on to our next subject, so if you guys don't wanna stick around, that's
Yeah,
totally
thank
fine,
you,
but thank
guys.
you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Get it all ironed.
What page, I'm going to the parks page, where?
No, so I literally went into Google search, reserve a park in Red Bluff, Montana.
All right, I'm gonna skip past this right now, because it is 5:05, and we do have a plat application review for Alpine Lodge discussion, which is timely.
Mm-hmm.
So I had asked Brian to potentially show up, and I assume that's why you're here.
I'm here, yeah, 'cause he was not able to make it, but I
Okay.
can give the really, really short version of it.
Okay, okay.
The really short version of it is a plat application is kind of like a subdivision,
Mhm.
Okay.
or a
Yeah.
conditional use request. So basically what happens is, planning board or city council sets up a list of hoops, of 15 hoops, that when you do all of these, it is compulsory that the city provide it. We don't get to add new conditions, we don't get to add anything.
This is it.
when you do
Okay.
it. So in one sense, to me, this is kind of really simple and straightforward, because anything we do other than say, thank you for your paperwork, and yep, it checks it, and that's what the planners have done, is they said, yep, they've met all the requirements.
Mhm.
So what we really have is almost just a formality of saying, we are acknowledging you've read the requirements, here's your, whatever, your widget that they get for it.
Excellent.
Even though originally that RV park was only approved by the planning board as housing for their employees.
It was not only that, that was just one of the, part of the discussion and conversation that was
Mhm.
there. So what this is in line with the actual documents of what was there. So that's what these guys have done, is pulled it and said, what did it say and what do they have to do?
Okay.
And so like, one of the things, the biggest one that was there, that was not an issue, was the paving
Yeah.
Yeah.
that went in around it. And so one of the things that happened is we sat down and had the conversation with, because there's also a time frame that you have to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and it's like this year, like April or May or something.
May, yep.
So there was a certain amount of it that says, here's what the hoops you were given were. If you get those done by whatever the deadline is, it is compulsory that we approve you and give you the certificate. If you go past that deadline, you have to start all over, and who knows what's
What
gonna be
new
approved and what.
stuff is
And the
gonna-
reality is, there's a significant argument, that says this shouldn't have been issued before, because we don't really have planning that says trailer, anything that resembles an RV park exists. But in this particular case, they said, you can do this if you X, Y, Z, if you check off these 23 things.
Is that zoned for an RV park?
I don't believe we have any place that's
We don't
zoned
have
for an
any.
I
RV
don't
park.
believe so either.
But we did tell them, you can use this use if you 1 through 23.
Uh-huh.
And so we don't get to go back on that.
So they had a non-conditional use, made an exception, yep.
They had a conditional use
Yep.
and a bunch of hoops that were applied,
And they,
and as long as they meet those hoops,
Yep.
we are bound to do it. Otherwise, we repeat the subdivision across the creek of, you're changing the rules on us after you, like, it's like the equivalent, we said to somebody, oh, you want to annex into the city? You must, and this is a really good conversation, because when somebody comes to us and says, well, I want to annex in the city, if you put in the roads, if you put in the curb, if you put in the gutter, blah, blah, somebody's going out and spending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars,
Yep.
because they have an assuredness that they will be allowed in. If we come in afterwards and say, nope, we're gonna make you do
Actually,
this also,
yeah.
we can't do that. So like I said, in one sense, this is really easy, and one of the things that I hope we don't, and is, I mean, we can do it, it just doesn't change it, is if we look at it and say, well, we should have done this, or we should have done that, well, back whenever this was done, that wasn't the conversation. So like, if this council passed something that said, if these are A, B, C, and D, and then you could annex into the city, a future council is gonna be bound by that, assuming they meet all those requirements. Which, what that means is there's a really important responsibility whenever we have something like that, to make sure we're good with that.
Yeah.
You're looking at me funny still.
No.
No, I'm not you.
I was like,
Well, then, it goes against zoning, because zoning was never changed to allow an RV park. And what happens if they want a bigger RV park? Where are we going to limit that? What if they want to buy the land next to it?
I don't think they can do that. This was the land use
Well, I know
And this
it's
was the
subdivision,
planning board who gave them this list, and then council
Yeah.
signed off on it.
yeah, I know that they have to go through subdivision rules. And because they're only a half a mile from a sewer cleanout, they don't have to have city sewer,
Nope.
which,
I'm not sure I understand. So my understanding is,
according to
Sewer.
DEQ,
no, my understanding is
That's water
that their
coming
down.
sewers are blocked off because the alternative is they would have to have a clean out on the other end
Yeah.
to use city sewer.
No, what it is
So-
DEQ basically gave them the approval to have their water, correct, and not
Yeah, so the
yeah.
water is an extension of their water,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that was really funny, because that was one of
Yeah.
the things that they were paying to test their water every month, and it was city water.
Mhm.
And so that was one of those. please
Yeah, 'cause
explain
DEQ
phenomenon
required it for the
conversation.
subdivision but like, but the
But it's
city's the
city's
one,
only-
it's their water,
yeah.
and like, oh,
And the
you still have to
city's
get,
testing.
test it, but they only test quarterly, and these guys they need to test monthly.
They test weekly.
Yeah, that
don't
was a whole fun thing.
So
Okay.
that was part of it. And so there's been a half a dozen things that they've
Yeah, so
done. And,
they-
and basically what we did to WWC is, what's missing, what needs to be done,
What
and then is this complete and thorough? And to be fair, I haven't gone through all of this
I
today,
haven't either.
but we're also not taking action on this.
Just
So-
for discussion.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
well, it's for discussion so we can take it, because we have to take action within 20 days of when they
Yeah,
submit their.
exactly.
their
And they
But
submitted.
the bottom
So-
line is, we don't have any say.
Correct. The decision was made 5 years ago. What we are saying is, yes, you have checked off all the check boxes that you were there, and therefore we are doing the action which we are compelled to do.
There's no,
My question is, for this group, is, A, do we want somebody, and this is going to, I don't think that this is on planning board's agenda. They just went up today. I don't know if it's
Mm-mm.
going to
No.
planning board or not.
No, 'cause they knew it was coming to council.
So,
Planning board.
Yep.
would you guys like to have WWC come give the presentation on this, and would you rather have that tomorrow night or in 2 weeks when there's, I like doing everything in advance if they can do it.
I was gonna say, if they could do it tomorrow night, that would be ideal.
But I
Because-
don't know what the presentation would be.
I think it would be saying
It-
what the
it would be the
criteria
same
was
thing that
required
I
and what was
said.
said.
We've
lot.
already done it, we've looked at it.
well, and I'm just curious what the criteria was that was there, and then what criteria they
That
came
is,
in and
that
said.
is in here, I
To get an
believe.
RV park, you have to do a subdivision, so they had to do a complete subdivision.
Well, and I'm looking, like, now I'm on page 2,
So
and
they
it's like
spent
dated
a
March
lot of
7th,
time and money and
2020.
Yeah,
energy.
it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, and so now I'm like, I'm still just going back, there's 63 pages for heaven's sake.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very thorough document.
Yeah.
Right, so I almost feel like, do they need, like, yeah, I'm kind of with Sandy, like, what are they gonna come in?
And
Well, the biggest
tell us-
thing, do you think anyone at the table is gonna have questions of why it shouldn't happen or why it is
Oh,
being
absolutely.
approved?
Read the paperwork.
63 pages?
Okay.
We're paying Great West to tell us the pros and cons.
WWC.
WWC, the wrong one. So we're paying them to give us the information, and there it is.
And here it is.
Yeah, so we don't have any
And
questions.
right
they've
there,
certified
in
that,
black and white.
they've read,
Yep.
they've signed it.
They've searched it a lot more than we ever.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, this is
So if
very
we're
thorough.
about a
It's good.
third of the way
What do you
in,
mean, 11?
on
Again,
December
it's been
31st,
happening a
2024, conditions of preliminary plat approval, so it
Yeah.
lists 3, 6, 8, and 10. I think those were the ones that were not done at that point in time.
Okay. Appendix H, see that, all right. Well, yeah, and it says right here, like subdivision regulation effective December 22nd, 2011.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. It was one of those
I didn't
planning
know where
board
it
meetings
was.
that I missed. I think I was on a Viking cruise and the
Where
time delay
was
was
I?
not good.
2011.
That's very fun.
Yeah, except getting up at 2:00 in the morning to go to a planning board meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's not as much fun.
No.
So here's the, actually, so it's about halfway through preliminary plat conditions of approval
Mm-hmm.
and staff report. So that is the page, background, new information, so the conditions. So there's where it lists 1 through 12.
What page is that?
Well, it's
They're not
labeled
numbered.
page 3, but it's about two-thirds of the way in.
Gotcha.
The use outcome, in accordance with the plan specifications, licenses,
Got it.
trash containers shall be screened. This is stuff that's
What page are you on?
very normal looking.
Yeah, I mean,
Very
even this
normal
is
looking.
fairly new, from when it was presented.
This was at 2022.
22, yeah, I was
Is it the
gonna
one-
say, I immediately read
And I
dark
think
skies,
that's
like,
what
that's
it is,
new.
they had, when this was good, they had 3 years to do it, I think. So that's
Yeah.
April 27th of this year.
Is it the same owners?
It is.
Yep. All
Oh.
licenses required by the city, county, and state shall have obtained prior to the county, Montana Department of Transportation, comments pertaining to issues.
I just don't think that we need to have somebody come in and talk to us when we have the paperwork,
Yeah.
basically, and we have no say.
All right, here.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of.
We-
I mean,
we
again,
are
I
all-
see that, we understand that, but I just wanna make sure that the other three at the
Well, we
table
can
have
just-
that same opportunity.
Do
So
they
it might
have-
be
they
that-
have- Do they have this? Do they have?
Yeah, well, this was a link inside. She did not include it in the package, but it's a.
in the
No, it's in the
packet.
packet.
It's in the
in there.
package. I printed it out today.
Okay, but wasn't
All
it
of
a
it?
link that went
No.
to it?
No, it's an
No.
actual packet.
Oh, she just didn't print it for the, okay.
Yeah, it's in there, so,
Okay.
that's where I just pulled it up
And
from,
then what
because
page
this
did
is
you
actually
have the
more than what I
conditions?
got from Greg, so.
So this is what I'm getting, I don't know where I got that, I'm pulling it up though.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm
I'm on page 47, 49, going through them.
there's only 63 pages, it's not too bad.
Only.
But
Well, I mean, there are a lot of picture pages.
the
there's a lot of pictures.
recommendations.
If you're,
lot of
get your
pictures.
pages back up a little bit.
The recommendations from WWC are really what we need to look at. Because they ask the questions and they answer the questions. Yes, it was done, here are the concerns. WWC usually does an outstanding job of answering the questions that we didn't know to ask.
That we didn't even know we needed to ask, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they
Where
do
did
a
I
nice-
saw
That's why
that?
we pay them the big bucks.
And from a staff position, we've had 2 or 3 meetings with the property owners and with them to sit down, and that's where the conversation, I'm not doing that, this. Well, here's the deal, if you do,
You're good to go.
we have to follow through on our
Yep.
end of it,
No.
Yep,
and if you don't, all bets are off the table. You have to hope that somebody comes up the next time and doesn't say, do we need to change our zoning that allows RV parks? Do we need to change our, you know?
Mhm.
So
That's
that's a conversation that's there.
And do we limit how many RVs in that zoning? I mean, there's lots of questions.
He only,
I
It
think
looks
they
like-
refer to their drawings though, so I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's limited by that
1, 2,
factor.
In this instance,
3, 4,
yeah.
5.
And this
Yeah,
subdivision
I'm talking
plat.
about zoning overall.
right,
Oh, well, yeah, but we're,
that's not what we're
Hopefully, we
doing
don't
at
have
the
to
we're
do
just
moment.
doing
Yeah.
this one right
Yeah,
now.
And
that's
like,
not
I
what
know
we're dealing with right now.
One of the things was that they didn't have the overlay that showed the individual, so they had all the information, but it wasn't combined into one document. And so they had to go pay their guy to do that.
Plus the DPHS, I always forget an H or a P, I always do it. The DPHS.
Uh-huh.
It does approve specifically 6 RV spaces, self-contained, COSA, water, wastewater,
Oh, there's the
stormwater
6th
plans
one.
with DEQ approval, facility and public water, and there's no wastewater disposal. So, I mean,
Exactly.
again, they have a lot of criteria that they have to follow, and
A lot
they've
more than
done,
we could.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
we
they-
wouldn't even,
This
yeah.
isn't their first rodeo.
Yep, and again, there's lots in here, so I feel very
I feel
confident with this.
confident going through
And
it now that I've actually,
again, it's always nice to be able to have someone to answer questions, so we're not sitting there in limbo, but,
no, and I'm looking through the correspondence through who've all been included in here. Like, there's stuff from Travis, and then there's stuff from Tom Coons has put his.
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like,
Like,
if everybody's had their hands in it,
Oh, yeah.
It's been very thoroughly done.
yes.
This is not just someone like putting some gravel spots in their part, or their field.
You mean like they did the first time?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
are you comfortable introducing this tomorrow night, or do you want me to give this spiel?
I can introduce it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep. And I'll probably just still look to you to
And be
give
like,
a spiel.
and spiel.
And I'm
We can't
happy to
help
do
with
that.
that.
And
Yeah.
like I said, the closest one,
We'll
well,
do
it
that
is a subdivision, but this is one of those things that the conditions were set forth several years ago, and
Yep.
when those conditions are met within the time frame,
Yep.
we are bound
Yep.
to do it.
And
Yep.
that's
Unless
the
we
bottom
wanna get
line.
ourselves sued. And the last time the city went down that path, it was a very, very expensive education.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
All right, so real quickly, we'll move from that. We all feel good.
Yep.
Brewery Hill feasibility study and resolution discussion.
Have we was that in our packet?
So that might have been the
That-
one she included, it is online. She may not have printed it out to put it in things, so it is online if you do, Brewery Hill.
Here we go. back to the.
And that was basically the day after, so she included the link in the packet, I think.
I didn't see it at all.
If it's-
Okay,
Yeah.
here we go, Brewery Hill. Brewery.
You're relying on Google.
Well, I go into
It
the
seems to
website.
get her
The
somewhere.
master
does.
Google,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Oracle.
well, what I'm doing is, well, but the problem is that there's a little bit of the crawler has to have been through, so like if it was posted yesterday, it doesn't necessarily there. But if I go in and do a search on the website for Brewery Hill, it does show up as the Brewery Hill Trees of Fifth. So if you go Brewery Hill
I'm on
online and
it.
look at it, it does
Feasibility
show up.
study, here it is.
So will that be a presentation tomorrow night?
I just see the resolution.
There's, at the very top, it's Brewery Hill Trail Feasibility Study. And then there's PDF report and there's a whole presentation.
Yeah,
That's what
the
I was- that's
slideshow
where I
was
was
the
going.
public presentation that happened.
Okay, now the report is right
Okay, that's
underneath
what's
it.
online and not in our packet. Got it.
So what's tomorrow night with Brewery?
That's what I'm asking. So if I need to,
I printed
if that's talking about it, do we want to have them? So let's go back to, Brewery Hill feasibility study and resolution. Do we want, so let's go back to the RV park. I don't need to,
No,
no outside presenter.
no.
And if they
It's not
do,
loading.
Yeah, it's a very large document, give it a minute.
It's got like this much. It's got this much to
God. Don't we have high speed here?
I've done it- I've
Isn't it
done it-
fiber
dial-up?
Another issue.
I've done it
dial-up?
on, I've done it on a half a dozen computers and had other people do it so we could verify it.
Really?
Yeah, and if it doesn't go after a minute, you may wanna go out and go back into it.
Well,
All right,
it's
so let's
going,
get
it's
to the
going
fees-
So the question is, do we need somebody from Great
We got
West here to
7
talk
minutes.
about
Yep.
it tomorrow?
Yeah,
I would,
The feasibility study?
I think so. I think this is going to be,
this one's again,
Attendance.
another 63 pages.
Yeah, I wanna see the feasibility report, 'cause I think that would be,
Well, you have it.
The presentation's in here, but I would, I'd
It's
feel
not
more
in the
comfortable having
packet.
someone here.
No, they
Someone
did
that's
link,
online.
because it's another 63
somebody that
pages.
knows it in and out, so when we ask the questions, that the answers are there.
Is there any consideration for lighting? Can there be physical barriers between traffic and the path? Like, some of these questions are good. Concerns with expressed about traffic and dangers with the roadway or a roundabout at Lazyham Street. Concerns were expressed for ice sliding on the intersection of Horde. The width of the trail.
so,
And I need
Oh,
to
look at
do
this. I mean, they went through
Oh, yeah.
considerations for the deer crossing and jumping into the roadway.
yeah. Then they wanted to put fence ups, and like, that's
No, what?
not gonna help at
No,
all with
why?
wildlife.
No.
What?
And
So,
what I can do is say, we prefer to have you tomorrow, but if not, then make it available in 2 weeks before we take action on it.
That would be nice.
That would be,
Yeah.
But I'd prefer to have it tomorrow.
I think prefer tomorrow, and I think a brief synopsis from them,
yes.
very brief, like 250 words, not pages. And just a very brief synopsis, like these are some of the things that are addressed, this is the general plan,
The
this
highlights.
is what we think is great.
I
And-
need, yeah,
And then
Cliff Note version.
the folks that have actually reviewed it and want to ask questions can. I think that would be beneficial.
So,
So the initial feedback that I had by way is in page 17 of this study.
16,
So
17.
17, it's
Here we
the
go.
chart that's in color like this. Can you get down to it?
17.
That is different, 17.
Well,
Oh,
it's
that's
the page,
14.
it's the page 17 of the document.
Oh, there it
That does
is.
not mean-
Page 20 of the online.
20
of the
online,
online.
17, I got you.
So,
Color
the
coordination.
initial feedback is they had kind of done some points and scoring, like score out of this, out of that. And what I said is, I want number one to be traffic and safety. And like, how does this, and so what they did is they threw in a weighting factor in there so that it's a multiplier or something. So what they did is it doubles the things that we had relayed on based on, and you were there at the
Oh,
city
yeah.
thing. So after coming out, so traffic and safety is a factor of 2, so it really counts as 8 points instead of, except I don't understand how they got
The 4? Well, they have like the 2.
Oh, they gave it
8.
4 points out of 5, and then they doubled it, so it's a more important factor. Because to me,
Okay, the
If we're
weighting
doing
factor
this,
is the
the number
multiplier.
Oh, I got you, I see the
Yeah,
weighting
I-
the
factor.
number one value is pedestrian safety.
Yep.
And fish and wildlife is equally important. And so what they did is they basically, I don't see that they doubled
I don't see
They
how
didn't
50
double
wildlife-
fish and
The only
wildlife.
thing they doubled was human traffic and safety, and my thing was like, people safety is not the same as
Fish.
wetlands or trail connectivity.
Right.
Or, that was, and so like I said, we can make comments and suggestions, meaning council can change, but that was the primary feedback that we gave them was, traffic and safety is like numero uno, how come it's weighted the same as 3 other things?
Right.
And rather than changing the score, they just gave it a multiplier.
Was that WWC or Great West, or?
This is Great West.
That is Great West.
Okay.
So, interesting how they,
Yeah, it's cool to see the breakdown from side to side. I mean,
I went up to page 19 or
I remembered.
16 with the
Alternate.
alternative 1B, alternate 2A, 2B.
And I wanted it to be uphill north and downhill north and uphill south, you know, something that
Uphill,
was
go
very.
uphill here. This is only uphill.
this is a one-way.
This is a one-way, get on the other side.
Oh my God, no, let's not do
Well,
that.
Chelsea's comment was, your pictures, north is on the top, then it's on the left, rotate your pictures.
Yeah, that was really
All the way
frustrating,
through.
like, the maps were all messed up,
None
to
of
where,
them
like,
were-
some of them were northwest, some, like, west was up top, north was...
North always be at the
It
top.
should always be at the top, like...
Yes, that's why all my students.
It was
worked up.
extremely frustrating when trying to watch the slides, and,
And the slides still have the errors in it, just as.
oh,
much.
I'm sure, it's,
So what this is if you go to the resolutions, there are 2. One of them is to adopt the feasibility report.
Okay.
City of Road Lodge has reviewed the feasibility report and submitted change requests necessary to effectuate the acceptance of the feasibility report. So in other words, if there's are changes that council wants to make,
Okay.
those really should be tomorrow, or so that they can bring it back at the next one
yep,
with
Okay.
those changes in. Then the council authorizes Dave Weston to execute and attest any documents required to adopt the feasibility report. And it really, okay, it does say mayor, so that's good. And then the other one, resolution of the city of Red Lodge to authorize submission of the transportation alternative plan. So that's the other resolution. Now, this does not obligate us, but this is saying we are submitting the application. It's worth noting that if they come back and say, hey, we're gonna do it, we're gonna cover $1.5 million, you need to come up with $300,000, that in the future, there would be another resolution that says, okay, are we gonna use $300,000 of resort tax money to do this? Or are we gonna go for private donations? Are we gonna, but there will be a future when we spend some money.
yep,
But having said that, it's kind of like when you buy a house, you're not obligated until you go in and sign,
Right.
but you don't waste everybody's time if you know it's a non-starter.
Right.
we're doing our buy-sell today.
That's
There are
the way to put it.
contingencies, we do have contingencies.
So tomorrow night
So
is
we're not
to adopt
obligating
the
ourselves,
report.
but,
Yes.
Yeah,
pardon?
So tomorrow night is to adopt the report.
No, tomorrow night is to talk about it. I'm
Okay.
sticking
You're
to,
to-
I'm trying to
Discussion,
give
then
you guys
action.
things before the action is there.
Thank you.
Having said that, if there are changes that people would like to make, I would like for you to go online and look at it or print it out. If you need me to go make you a hard copy or something, I can do that too. If there are changes or things that we want to do before they submit it, we ought to get it to them very, very soon
So they can,
so they can make those changes.
Right.
okay.
There is a point where we say, we're calling it, it's done. If we don't, we would still be talking about the pool and the shape and the size and where it goes. There comes a point where you say,
Good to go.
there's been that chance for input, we're calling it, let's move forward.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been
There's-
talking about
There's the speed of government, and then there's the circular death machine where nothing ever comes out. We've tried very hard to avoid that second one.
the Appendix D, that's gonna be great. All right.
Does that answer the questions on that? Or what more would you like me to have for?
Again, I think just a very brief presentation for council from from Great West.
Is it Great West or
It's
WWW?
Great West. Having two is, but yeah, if we could have a very brief presentation from them, that would be appreciated. And then we have an opportunity to ask questions, and then that way, if there are changes, we can bring that up, but I think it'd be better to have him there, so we can ask those questions, and if it spurs a change,
Yes.
that conversation can
Okay,
happen.
and I also suspect that Nick Gaddy will be here from the Trail Association.
I would as well. Yep.
I would imagine.
And he will probably be able to play an active role in that. Now, having said that, from a city side and getting this through,
Mhm.
this is now in Mike Maple's court, and the logic and the reasoning behind that was because maintenance is an absolute must on this.
Yeah,
And
Oh,
so-
yeah.
So this is, and Parks is him as well, so.
right.
So as far as it's not on Dave's plate anymore. to
He's
get it
everything
done.
outside the building.
Is that something that we could do an MOU on?
Pardon?
Is that something we can do an MOU, on maintenance?
I don't know if they
Oh,
have the
meaning
resources.
give somebody else MOU on it?
Uh,
Meaning for them to
Trail?
maintain? The answer is no, it's us. I mean, it is, there is an MOU, that's a whole kind of different conversation about what do they maintain, what do we maintain? But this is one of those like sidewalk, I didn't say that, scratch that from the record.
Trail.
Cause that's not it.
This is a trail
It's a paved trail.
that we would, if we were gonna do this from a city perspective, we would be maintaining it.
Just for
We
liability.
would factor in the cost of maintaining that and knowing that we needed a new machine, or we know that, like I said, we want this to be many, many years to come. So
Okay,
I'm gonna reach out and have Brandon or,
Greg.
no, well, it won't, no, this is,
Oh,
no, this
different
is
one.
Great
God
West,
damn.
unfortunately.
God, they keep
If
mixing me up
you
with
would-
all these.
if-
WWC.
No, this is Great West, not WWC.
I've just literally been, in my head, categorized them as red as blue, like red and blue. I have
Great
red
West
is
is
Great
blue.
West.
Oh, see, I have Great West
Great
in my
West-
mind as blue.
Great West, we've been working with Great West for the last couple of
Right,
years.
yeah, and I have WWC as red.
WWC is new.
WWC is, so
It's
what
fairly
it is
new.
Great West is our engineering firm.
Yes,
Yes.
Great West is our WWC is our outsourced planning.
Okay, planning and engineering.
Yes.
Got it.
Now, unless, we do have the ability, so like on Bastion, on the Rocky Fork,
Yeah,
we had WWC do the engineering on that as well. 'Cause they
that
are
keeps
also-
outside of protocol.
there we go.
They are an engineering firm.
crossing my colors.
All right.
Crossing my colors.
I'm keeping their pencil sharp by
Okay.
making them work for us.
Well, I'm gonna do us all a favor here real quick,
Yes, please.
and I'm
Did
gonna
Angela
put
have
that to
anything
bed
else?
so we can
What do you
all
think?
rack our brains on how we wanna refer to WWC and engineering, or Great West.
Okay? And we're out of time, but I still have a couple things when you get to the public comment, which, by the way, yours does
Oh.
not have on it.
Cause I had,
Do it.
yeah, let's do public comment.
Public
We'll-
comment.
growth policy is happening still, and it's actually been expanded for another, or extended for another week, so.
Okay, fantastic.
Yep, just, that is the
There's
update
still
at the moment.
43 pages.
We're, work in progress.
Just scroll through 63
Okay, now public comment.
in our room.
Mr. Westwood.
I have some staff updates from the city side.
Cool.
Cool.
First off, we are starting the process, I would like to get the high-level buy-off from council, and I know this is just a portion of council. We have been looking and ways that we can help address our workforce housing or some of the available housing, and what can what does land does the city have? We've talked about the stuff up the top of Brewery Hill. We've talked about the urban renewal district. Everybody who gets that pounded into their head every day, the amazing Brian came up with one the other day. If you go down between Cooper and Hagan,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
there are a couple of places where the city has a right-of-way for a road, where a road does not exist.
Oh, yeah.
So we have been doing
Huh.
some homework, and what we have found out is, now, there are some tricks in that it requires 50% of the adjacent properties have to buy onto this, in order for this to work.
Technically, if you get rid of the road, half goes to the.
No.
No, that's if you
If
abandon
If
it.
you
We're
abandon
not
the
abandoning it.
right-of-way, then half of it goes to each property. So it's very, very clear from a language standpoint, we are not abandoning a right-of-way. What we are doing is discontinuing a street. And if we discontinue the street, what we now have is a 60-wide
Blue and
parcel
red,
that
blue and red.
the city can turn into 2 lots, which are each capable of housing a 3-plex on it.
Okay, now my, please clarify for me where this right-of-way is? If I remember correctly, it's very close to the river? Or is
No, it's actually,
Or is
it's,
this the alley between,
no, this is a road that doesn't exist on Fourth Street.
oh,
So there is no Fourth Street.
Fourth Street.
I know
If
exactly
you-
where this
if
is.
you- Yeah, and there's a couple of them there.
Yep.
What
Like,
happens
where
is,
the
so
hell-
so here's the issue that we have to come up with. There's an alley that people have all been building out on, and people have kind of been building into it.
Yeah,
So one of the things that we need to do from a city standpoint is we're gonna have a meeting, assuming that council says, yes, this is a really good idea, go with this. Is we're gonna sit down and have the meetings, and basically, as I picture the presentation in my mind, there's either you guys need to move all, we can either put in a
Yeah.
street and an alley, or if two of you will sign off on the idea, we're going to discontinue our street, which means this will never be a street. And instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn it into lots that we'll put an RFP out.
and that would be 4 homeowners, correct?
Two.
Two.
So it's
Just the
60
two.
foot wide.
And it would be,
But it can handle it, when we've gone out and looked at it, it can handle a triplex.
oh, yeah, no, it'd be,
side-by-side
it would
tunnel
fit
triplex.
lovely there. It would be great.
And there are more places
Similar?
than just there
Yeah,
that
That's
this can
right.
happen.
oh,
There's
yeah.
a bunch over there too.
So by discontinuing a street, which doesn't exist, but not abandoning our right-of-way,
Yep,
so we haven't found anybody else in the state who's done this yet, or
I love it.
WWC, but it was, this is right out on the edge of, yeah.
this is Brian's idea? I'm gonna give him the
no,
most crisp high five when I see him.
he's been given a sufficient number of gold stars on it, because it's like, go out and find land that we can use, go out and find land that we can use.
Mhm.
See ya.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Drive safely, please. There's a lot of extra paperwork if you were the last person, if I was the last person who saw you alive.
I'm staying tonight,
Oh, nice.
Are you?
yeah.
Are you really staying the night?
He's staying here because he can't get out the
He's
door.
not going anywhere.
So turn that up and down.
I'm gonna stay up here tonight if I can't get out
Yeah.
of here.
It's like, you're
We
not.
could put a
But
couple
you're
of
not
chairs
not
together.
spending the night here.
I am spending the night here.
You sleeping in the building?
No, I'm
He's-
going out.
Okay, we weren't saying
Well,
the same thing.
If Chelsea can
I
get
feel like
him
I'm
out.
talking to my wife here.
My question to you is.
The alarm will not be set when you come in the morning. That was not on tape, it was on tape. They won't see it between now and then.
My que-
Angela, don't
go.
break in.
All
right.
My question is that this street that we're talking about, is that Cooper?
No,
No.
it's Fourth Street
Going from
Connecting
Hagen to
Cooper.
Cooper.
to Hagen.
Okay.
Right, because
So
you get on there,
if you
you're like.
drive down either Cooper or Hagen and look out if you're driving north, look out your left window until you're staring at the end of the Quality Inn,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and you're right in line with it, because that road would go to the end of the Quality
Right.
Inn if it went all the way through.
right,
Correct.
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
I
I know exactly where this
I
is,
like-
it'd look lovely, I'm all for it.
I like it.
And it's already R4,
Yep.
so there's
Yeah.
no conditional use permit.
Yep.
Once we
Okay.
got, we would have to go through a subdivision, it has to come to council for this to happen.
Okay.
But my question is, yay, nay?
Yay?
Oh, yay.
Yay, I'm so yay for
Oh,
this.
yay.
I'm gonna get in so
Okay.
much trouble for
Yay.
that.
So this is a new process that we're going through, and we're
Okay.
still trying to figure out, but we have not found any, nope, you can't do it, and here appears to be the process, and here's appears to be the,
Do the
that's
adjacent.
called finding spots to make
Did
it
you run
work.
it past WWC?
Oh, WWC has, yes, the WWC has been working this.
How,
Okay, good.
and do any of the, like, adjacent property owners, are they the ones that you have to, do they?
We need 50%, my understanding is, we need 50% of the
Four
adjacent
homeowners.
property owners to sign off, so
And there's.
So you're only planning on
So there's
doing
4?
half of it right now?
No,
Oh.
it would be 2, so there's 4
Okay, so
property owners.
that's what I was asking before, is there's 4 total and you need 2 to sign off.
We need 2 of the 4 to
Yeah,
sign off on it.
But they have built on the alley,
This is the alley here,
or it should be.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is the road here.
Yeah.
They're encroaching into the space right there.
Yeah.
So what I'm working
There's been
on
a lot
is
of
their
that.
presentation, so that they say yes,
Yeah,
as opposed to banding together and saying no. Because what I can do is say, fine, we're gonna put what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some mills in there, some milling down, and call it a road so we can collect gas tax on it. I need this to be beneficial to the city. So
One way or another.
I'm either turning it into a road for gas taxes, or I'm turning it into lots that we can build apartments on.
And if I have to turn it into a road for gas tax, then I'm also gonna do the alley.
Oh, that you are exactly
Yeah.
signed into the conversation.
Looks like you're there.
Nope.
Not good.
Okay.
And
Now,
out there does
the
the
only
news.
caveat to that is, I think we should probably still have the alley there too, so.
You know,
I'm still working out the carrot stick approach. I'm hoping that they just see the benefit of it.
and
And
that it doesn't really affect them.
one of
and they
them
have
is
use of the alley.
Mike.
Yep, Mr. Schomeke, Mr. Mayor.
So do I have one of my
Mayor-
four signatures, would you suppose?
I think honestly, I think he's pretty pro workforce housing, he's pro development, like, I don't think that would be too much of an issue,
To
so.
me, this is a brilliant idea. We just have to figure out how to execute.
How to-
I think he'll be honestly fairly excited about it. I'm not so sure about the other side. But that being said, I also think they're very pro workforce housing. Most of that neighborhood, I can imagine being
Pro. They're in that section.
as long as it's done well and as long as it's well maintained.
I think that the stick.
That's
is
the hardest bit.
Is the best part about it, is that they did build on an alley.
I mean, a lot of these guys didn't even build on the alley. It was the people before them and before them
Right.
and
I
before
know,
them.
I know, and a lot of them probably
But what I'm
And
saying
they
is, we're
do,
not
yeah.
necessarily abandoning that alley. You have to put a little bit of hip into that door to get out.
or knee.
Or you're just stronger than the boss.
No, he just had it locked.
He locked
Oh,
it.
well, he locked it at the, yeah,
Okay.
that's strong. So anyway, that was the first thing, and what I'm hearing
Okay.
is a yes, pursue that, and we
Yes,
look forward to you bringing that to us.
Wanna
It'll
hear it.
be, yeah, I will be very interested to hear
Let's see
these
where that goes.
conversations.
Okay. Second thing, corner near the high school. So if you're driving up toward the high school,
Which corner?
you're driving up toward the high school, there
Fifth
comes a
or
point where
third
you
or
turn
second?
right to go to the high school, or you turn left to go down to the wildlife sanctuary.
Okay, gotcha. So
That-
Second Street.
That corner there, where you turn into there, is city-owned land.
Correct.
We are not utilizing it. They are working, there's a conversation that is taking place in parks, and so we've got the whole MOU, we've got the field school park ownership straightened out. It looks like that's probably gonna make more sense to do that pickleball courts. The high school really wants tennis courts, and we want tennis courts from a community perspective. The high school is going to buy it anyway. Short version is, that corner lot is currently city land. What I would like to propose is that we lease that to them, much like we do the high school, and then the school system goes out and gets the funding and the donations and the volunteers
Put the
to
tennis.
build and maintain tennis courts that the city public can use.
Is it currently being utilized?
We planted
Isn't
5
it a
trees on
retention
it.
pond?
It's the only thing
Currently-
that it
Is that the
does.
retention pond?
It's right here.
No, it isn't.
No.
So the retention pond's
Further
north a
down.
couple of
Yeah, it's
blocks.
right here.
Yeah, further down.
So the slope would require a little bit of dirt work, but it's still completely doable.
How big is that space? Half an acre?
I mean, that's like a whole, Lot.
It's pretty
You see
big,
where I'm going?
yeah.
but.
Why wouldn't we use that for, workforce housing?
I feel,
I mean, I feel like you
I-
can make pickleball courts and tennis courts and
Well-
still get community support, but this seems like a very good
To
use,
me,
especially considering teachers
that
need places to
location of
live.
it, next to the high school, you've got baseball fields, soccer fields, tennis courts,
It's
track,
kind of a
football
park.
fields,
it would
all
be,
kind of in the same thing.
Why not workforce housing?
I mean, literally, we have people, like, that's one of the big concerns, teachers having affordable homes. That's a perfect place for a
as a
teacher to live,
teacher,
is right next
I
to
would
the.
hate to live right next to a school.
Okay, that's fair. That's a good point that I wouldn't have thought
As a
of.
teacher, I would not want
Yeah,
to.
the
As a
idea of
lazy
walking to
person,
school is not a selling
Not-
point.
I mean, I'm just saying, then again, I also commute, but
The answer to the question is, when that came up, was during the conversation of looking for appropriate places for a tennis court.
Okay.
So that's the answer to your question. Could it
And we
be?
have tennis courts.
Pardon?
We
and
have tennis courts. We don't have
Okay.
workforce
We,
housing.
we actually don't have tennis courts. We have a
Okay,
spot
have
where
tennis
there are
courts.
some skeletons of tennis courts.
it's kind of, yeah.
And-
Is the bones
even the
of
ones
ske-
up at the resort look almost as in dire shape as.
Oh,
We
God.
won't even wanna talk about those.
And
So-
those aren't ours. We don't have any say or party on that.
No, my concern is it going to after this weekend, limit the parking in any capacity?
No, it does not limit the parking in any way, shape, or form. What it
It's an
does do is
interesting
it
part.
puts another facility in the proximity of all the parking that's already kind of currently.
And then it opens up more use for more tennis tournaments /
That's what they're doing, is basically
More.
building something that could do tennis and get tournaments into
I mean,
town.
if you guys went into town this week, it was
Oh, yeah.
a madhouse,
I
but
saw the buses up there, what was the event, I was down with my
District.
first stroke, so-
district, Class B district basketball game.
Oh, that's right.
Whew.
Yeah, no, town was rowdy.
Between that and the great skiing.
Skiing and
Well, the
then
winds, but
ski
yeah.
tournaments, randonnée, then you also had the Backcountry Film Festival.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
It was a busy weekend.
very busy weekend.
But we went up Saturday for the championship game, and thank God my husband has EV plates, so we could shimmy into the handicap parking at the wildlife
And
sanctuary.
you just kicked him in the shin so that he limped on the way in?
He was already looking what he talked about. But yeah, I mean, there was the parking, and then, I asked my son where he parked, and he wouldn't really tell me, because I don't think it was an actual parking spot.
So let me go back to my question.
Mhm.
Yay or nay on the yes, continue to pursue and have the conversations about whether that can be tennis? I'm hearing one going, ooh, I'd almost rather see it be.
I mean, I think that we have a higher
Keep in mind that we're working on a lot of other places for work.
Agreed.
I don't think
Again, I'm
that-
not willing, I think it's good to pursue. I'm not willing to rubber stamp it at this
I'm not
point.
asking
I
for rubber
think
stamp.
discussion, we can discuss it.
I do
But-
not think that close to a school, like, I already,
You have to understand, it's not just teachers.
no, and I agree that, but also from a school, like,
From a,
from a parent's perspective also, like,
don't necessarily want cheap
no,
housing next
exactly,
to.
I don't, and I don't want
It's
the
not
type-
cheap, it's middle housing.
Still, I think that it would be better utilized to keep, I can see what they're thinking, is to keep everything kind of centrally located with the baseball fields right there, and the track, and the football field, and everything.
And that was the conversation we had, was highest and best use and kind
Right,
of.
and it's all,
And that would increase your parking issues. If you had workforce housing, that could be built where the parking is on site.
Parking could be on site for this too, for tennis courts. And there's also generally within its not district,
right,
ample parking up at the
Because the
school
other thing,
and
remember, all
in
that
Minot
parking that
Park.
they use at the school isn't high school land.
I know, it's city land.
I know that there's been a lot of complaints from the folks over on Fifth and Chambers.
correct,
Of course.
Yeah, but
yes, and they
I
even
feel like
had
that's, I haven't heard from them in a while,
well, they had it
so-
barricaded off, but I mean, I just know all the.
We've had a higher patrol presence over there to make sure people aren't parking, and it's a little bit since football season was over
Yeah.
too, that's really what.
But, I mean,
Yeah.
it complicates things with winter sports, being that no situation also makes it challenging. But again, like, I feel like we're doing a pretty good job finding little niches to put workforce housing in, to where it's not just one giant high-density location. I do like the idea of
Well, I don't
little
wanna,
pieces, but,
I don't wanna give it away until we have a perfect spot for workforce housing. That's kind of my thought,
mhm.
is
Okay.
let's not get rid of anything until we have a good spot for workforce housing.
Okay,
I'm looking forward to seeing a map with more of these locations.
That's kind of where I'm at too, like.
like
what
I
other-
said, know that we are looking and being
I know.
I like the
creative in all
creative
sorts of
aspect of
different
it.
ways.
I love that.
You know, and like, I'm still, like, the old hospital area up there, and
And that's a still conversation that's going on as an FYI. We're still
Okay.
trying to figure out how to, this is an update for council,
Pay the $2 million to remove it.
yeah, so the problem is that the
Brownfield.
the Brownsfield has come in, they've done the phase 1 and phase 2, and it's a 7-figure
Mm.
reclaiming. Only
Lots of zeros.
municipalities have that, but, so let me kind of give you a little bit of challenge. If they were to give that to the city tomorrow, keep
We
in
don't want
mind,
it.
we don't have,
2 million.
we don't have the Brownfields guarantee that we're gonna get that. So would we be wise to say yes? Or would we be, so, and
Thank you.
some of those are still hypothetical
Thank you.
questions at this
Mhm.
point. But there's part of that we have access to grants to do that private entities do not. Now, nonprofits do, so if the community foundation accepted that, but I don't know that they necessarily want to accept that either, because it's also a liability. Hey, congratulations, you just received a $2 million,
I mean, there was a bit of that with Roosevelt.
yeah. So that conversation is still ongoing, but it's not a dead conversation, because that's kind of like Eagles Nest, that's a 2-for-1.
Right.
That's we get rid of an eyesore and we increase, and that's a good location for housing. So like I said, we've still got a couple of big
Some of
sites that we're
them.
looking at.
Hmm?
I will offer that we are getting,
But we haven't seen the new FEMA.
there is a lot of input and I don't necessarily disagree with it, and in fact, it's come from council, that the urban renewal stuff right along the main entrance
Mm-hmm.
is not necessarily the best place for housing.
Okay.
And even if it's retail on top with housing on top of it, it's like, no.
That takes
Keep
away
our-
from down.
Keep our downtown and not, and that's one of those philosophical discussions about what are we gonna do? And that will come up when planning board
Okay.
comes up and revisits this. I think some of those conversations will happen.
All right.
Okay.
So those are the other.
You
thing
went well
is-
over your 3 minutes, sir.
The MOU
I
for
gotta make dinner
Rodeo
here.
Park, so it turns out they started to turn, this is a two-part thing. So right now, there's a lease, and the way the conversation came up was that we are charging rent fare $100 a day. We are charging snow touring $100 a day.
Uh-huh.
The only entity we do not charge is rodeo. So what, the reality is, and I had a call up today because we're treating it like the MOU that used to be in place and like the MOU that's going to be in place.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, if we've leased it, how come we don't say who pays and who doesn't pay? How come anybody has to pay? And it's like, that's still city land. So,
Mm-hmm.
so we worked with the rodeo association and kind of said that's there, but Brian is drafting, an MOU for that is in line with Pride Park or Lions Park. Because the way it works at Lions Park, anybody who wants it pays $100 a day, except for
Mm-hmm.
the Lion Club. Pride Park, the Garden Park doesn't pay. So it's like, we've got all these templates that work. We just need to get an MOU that's there. And then in conjunction with that is that park designation we had talked about up there. Turns out they started to do that 20 or 30 years ago and just never finished doing it. So we're kind of trying to go through and look at what was there and picking up the pieces on that. So
Gotcha.
those were the three things I had, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Wow. If there's no further public comment, Angela, do you have anything? Thank you for hanging out.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thanks for, the open conversation about workforce housing, and, we are here to, help in any way, and I think it's going to take all of us to do something. So I appreciate you guys talking about it and taking the time to try and search for, sites to help with that issue. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And thanks for all your hard work on it. So team efforts.
That's right. Thank you.
All right. With that, I will adjourn our land use and planning meeting